Free West Papua, one people, one soul.
Welcoming the delegation and also the people on the tribune. My name is Dirk Boswijk. I'm the chair of or a member of the Foreign Affairs Committee and a chair of this meeting. I also want to introduce my colleague Don Seder from the ChristenUnie. And I'm expecting a colleague coming, Gijs Tuinman from the Farmer Citizen Movement. But currently there is a very busy meeting, a debate going on in the plenary. So that's why some colleagues will be here or have to be there. So unfortunately, not everybody can be in this room today. I propose that we start with the statement from the Prime Minister. You sent us the video, and after that you can have your input.
It's possible. I thought it was
first the video.
It's up to you, Chair. If we want to start with the...
Yeah. We start with the video.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hearing di Belanda 28 Februari itu mempunyai nilai historis, punya nilai strategis, dan punya nilai kemanusiaan yang tinggi untuk penyelesaian akar persoalan politik di Papua Barat. Segala bentuk kerjasama, investasi, kebijakan-kebijakan otonomi khusus tidak punya arti bagi orang Papua. Otonomi khusus orang Papua hanya dijadikan objek untuk kebijakan Indonesia untuk sumber daya alam di Papua untuk dikorbankan. Jadi segala bentuk investasi terkait dengan kebijakan otonomi khusus atau pemekaran apapun, Papua hari ini sudah dibagi 6 provinsi. Itu demi pengerukan eksploitasi sumber daya alam. Jadi segala bentuk investasi apapun segera pada kesempatan hearing ini sebagai Perdana Menteri kami serukan kepada bangsa Belanda, Parlemen Belanda, kebijakan luar negeri Belanda maupun Uni Eropa untuk menghentikan semua bentuk kerjasama investasi yang mengorbankan orang Papua atas political right, hak hidup dan perusakan lingkungan hidup di atas West Papua akibat eksploitasi sumber daya kekayaan alam di West Papua. Tidak ada masa depan rakyat bangsa West Papua dalam negara Republik Indonesia. Tabi, Saireri, Domberai, Bomberai, Lapago, Mepago, Anima, 7 wilayah negara bagian atau wilayah adat Papua ini sudah terstruktur sistematis dan mengalami genocide, mengalami kerusakan eksploitasi sumber alam. Oleh karena itu melalui hearing ini, sebagai Perdana Menteri Pusat Government meminta untuk Komisi Tinggi PBB datang ke West Papua melakukan investigasi terhadap dugaan pelanggaran hak asasi manusia yang sudah berlangsung terstruktur, sistematis dan masif di seluruh wilayah Papua.
Thank you very much. Very clear statement. I want to start with Mr. Wenda.
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, I would like to welcome you with my traditional language, West Papua. You know, West Papua is almost 350 languages and 350 tribes. One of them is from Lani. Wah, 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 wah. Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I give thank you to Netherlands Parliamentary Committee for Foreign Affairs, meeting as our former colonizer. It is very important that you understand that situation in West Papua and show support for our struggle. Thank you also to Councillor Elizabeth and Fernando Barret for speaking today. Also, Oridek Ab as AU mission for ULMWP today. And I also want to thank you to the people of West Papua, particularly executive, judicative, legislative, regional committee, and today watching, and give full mandate to the Congress 2023 last November. ULMWP, as you are mandated for carry out the task that mandates through the Congress is the UN High Commissioner visit to West Papua. All the more than 100 separate countries have now demanded that Indonesia allow UN High Commissioner for Human Rights to investigate in here today. The election of the Prabowo Subianto as the Indonesian president is concerning and frightening for West Papua. Let's be clear, Prabowo is a war criminal. He is conflicted in crime against humanity and genocide in East Timor and West Papua, Aceh and Maluku under Suharto. He has a never apology of being held accountable for the many atrocities he has been involved in. In this man who was considered too brutal even more the Indonesian army. Because he has passed his ideology and because of his statement he made during his elections campaign, we have a good reason to fear that Prabowo will further escalation that militarization of West Papua. We are already suffering ecocide and genocide. The situation will only get worse under murderer. We have already seen the first atrocity of the new Prabowo era. Last week, the Indonesian military arrest and torture 2 Papuan children in Jahukimo. They then took photo with those 2 innocent children as a trophy. Indonesia has repeatedly shown that while targeting children, the new generation of West Papuan, torture in West Papua is a common. That has been described as a mode of governance. With Prabowo as a president, there must be a renewed campaign for UN fact-finding mission in my country, in West Papua. The world must pay attention to our plight. Human rights do not exist in West Papua. In these 6 years, since Indonesia first invited the UN in, over 100,000 Papuans been displaced, place called Intan Jaya, Puncak Jaya, Mai Barat, Oksibil, and Nduga, their homes and made refugees in their own land. Over 75,000 of my people remain displaced today to this day. Over 1,400 have been killed. We know the war are coming to Europe in Ukraine, Russia and Ukraine, in the Palestine and Israel. But West Papua, 60 years war are still continue. 500,000, 500,000 West Papuans been killed. It's called genocide. While in jet, Indonesia pretending good guys coming to The Hague to bring Israel to court. But what about West Papua? What about West Papua? We have been discriminated last 60 years. It's no coincidence that this violence has happened while Indonesia has sent 25,000 to 30,000 troops to occupied West Papua. Even worse, Indonesia has consistently refused to let aid reach the displaced people, meaning that many have died of hunger or feathers in the bush. No UN visit, no aid worker, no journalists allowed, even ABC, BBC, or Amnesty International. West Papua is becoming North Korea of the Pacific. In West Papua, there are 2 crimes committed by Indonesian military, genocide and ecocide, while UN is not allowed in Indonesia. Indonesia has increased its destructions of West Papuan ancestral land. Our mountains, rivers, and our forests. Huge new gold mine that size of Jakarta is now being built, called Wabu Block. While BP has completed its expansion of the Tangguh gas field, which will now provide 35% of Indonesia gas in Indonesia gas. Indonesia has also rejected tribal land claim in Boven Digul. Climate destruction will also continue under Prabowo, whose family have a massive mining and palm oil interest in my country, in West Papua. Palm oil is one of the biggest killers in West Papua, a killer of culture, of native forests, of national identity, the culture. How can we fight climate change in Europe? If Indonesia is destroying the world's third largest forest in West Papua, Indonesia have repeatedly shown that simply words of disapproval are not enough. Their police and soldiers act with total impunity in West Papua. If there is no real pressure, they will continue to kill us and torture as a subhuman. Over 100 countries have shown call for UN High Commissioner visit. And this include the Netherlands, for which I thank you. It also includes the Pacific Island Forum, ORCP, Africa, Caribbean, Pacific, and European Commission under Joseph Borrell, and that last year, MSC leader meeting in MSC also issued their own communique, demand visit, with deadline of next leaders meeting in April. This deadline is now only 1 month away. Indonesia has clearly blocked international observations of their occupations of years now. They are using delay tactics and making excuse while wrapping up their genocide rule in occupied territory, West Papua. We are asking countries like Netherlands, a former colonial, to recognize this and hold their trade, diplomatic, and dealing with Indonesia until their fact-finding to allow to West Papua. Every day UN is not allowed into West Papua, more of my people will torture, arrest, imprisonment, just like in Jahukimo. How many more years we wait for this atrocity committed by Indonesians to carry out? My last conclusion. Today is an important day. I ask the Dutch parliamentarians and Committee of Foreign Affairs to support more pressure to Indonesian government to allow UN High Commissioner visit before too late. I'm concerned 20, 50 years time, my people will disappear. And anyway, the parliamentarian could support Brussels declarations signed by all over a parliamentarian. This is there, you can sign. Again, on behalf of the United Liberation Movement and people of West Papua, I thank you for allowing me to speak in this parliament. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wenner, for your statement. I want to continue to Mrs. Van Vliet.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Republic of Vanuatu has since many years been a strong advocate for protecting human rights and human rights defenders in many parts of the world, and especially in West Papua. Vanuatu supports the pending request by the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights to visit West Papua. The UN estimates that 60,000 to 100,000 indigenous Papuans were displaced as a result of Indonesian military operations between December 2018 and March 2022. According to data compiled by the human rights defenders, a total of more than 67,000 West Papuans remain displaced as of September 2023. Over 85 countries have now called for the OHCHR visit, including all member states of the Pacific Island Forum, the PIF, the Organization of African, Caribbean and Pacific States, the OACPS, and individual nations including the UK, Spain and the Netherlands. Vanuatu's call as per forum decision for the OHCHR with consultation with Indonesia to conduct a visit to West Papua and report back remains unchanged. The High Commissioner wants to proceed, but Indonesia has not consented up till now. The Netherlands has an historical connection with West Papua. Any extra support from the Netherlands to help realizing the visit of the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights to visit West Papua will be much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you for your statement, Ms. Van Vliet. Mr. Barrena, is that right? Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the Parliament. Thank you, President Wenda, and good evening, everybody. I first heard about the international parliamentarians for West Papua IPWP from my Basque colleague, Senator Gorka Lejabarrieta, who is a vice chair of this parliamentary network. The West Papua situation struck me as a classic example of a political conflict that disregards the nationhood of a people and violates their right to self-determination. The spiral then escalates with resistance by the people and repression by the occupying state. In the case of West Papua, of course, several additional elements or layers are not always present in many other sovereignty conflicts. We have the fact that it was a decolonization process, as you all know well, in which self-determination and independence were actually foreseen by the former colonial power and the United Nations, but were thwarted by the newly created Indonesian state. We have the issue as well of fake self-determination with an enforced result, as clearly seen in the so-called Act of Free Choice. And we have the fact that the majority of West Papuans are indigenous peoples with an enormously rich and diverse culture who are subject of a special and specific protection in the international system. And in addition, West Papuans inhabit one of the 2 or 3 most important rain forests of the planet, which is itself the subject of special protections in international environmental law, protections that are not being upheld as far as we know. Nevertheless, I would argue that the fundamental premises that the West Papuan people have an inalienable right to self-determination, and that whatever the situation on the ground, it's necessary for the state of Indonesia and the representatives of the West Papuan people to come together and agree a way to make that right effective. In the meanwhile, there's a severe humanitarian situation on the ground, as President Wenda has set out, which needs to be urgently addressed. There are well over 80 countries in the world who support a visit by the United Nations Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, including all member nations of the Pacific Islands Forum, the Organization of African, Caribbean and Pacific States, and individual states, including the United Kingdom, Spain, and of course the Netherlands. The European Commission has also called for a visit. And indeed, it's very hard for anyone with even a basic knowledge of the situation to understand how an important member of the international community, such as Indonesia, can continue to refuse a fundamental international instrument such as the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights of the United Nations. Surely there's nothing to lose and everything to win from the normal practice of United Nations human rights instruments. And therefore, I would respectfully but forcefully argue that the state of Indonesia must urgently issue an invitation to the Office of the High Commissioner for a visit to the territories of West Papua with full access and transparency. It's on the urgency of this visit that we are focusing the main part of my work with the international parliamentarians for West Papua right now, explaining the issue and pushing for their support whenever and wherever we can. Whilst it's true that as parliamentarians we'll have many duties and often full agendas, it's often quite possible for us to take parliamentary action, such as IPWP members take in their home countries, and helps to move the cause of human rights and justice for West Papua forward. Over the last few years, international parliamentarians for West Papua members have tabled questions that have eliciting encouraging replies to the British government, to the European Commission, and to the Spanish Foreign Ministry. My colleagues at the Basque Parliament moved a motion decrying human rights abuses in West Papua and calling for an office of the High Commissioners for Human Rights visit, which was passed and opposedly away by the Human Rights Committee. So, as you can see, it's possible to do quite a lot, and in the relatively short time I have had with the pleasure of working with the IPWP, political support for the High Commissioner visit has grown from the Pacific to Africa and the Caribbean, to the UK and to European Union member states, to the European Commission at the end. It's clear that there is a scope and the opportunity to grow this support further afield in Europe and in other parts of the world too. And if we all do a little, the overall result can be impressive. More importantly, it can be effective. It can be done, and it must be done according to our opinion. Indeed, in our experience in the Basque Country, the worse a conflict gets on the ground, the more important it's to reinforce efforts towards a peaceful, just and democratic solution to the conflict. It's also an important part of our experience of conflict transformation and peace building in the Basque Country, that involvement and goodwill on the part of individuals and actors from the international community can really help to unblock situations and can truly be useful in moving things forward. So I would like to commend the work of the IPWP and issue a number of calls to all of you members of this Parliament. Of course, I would ask you to join the international parliamentarians for West Papua IPWP and support the cause of peace and justice for the people of West Papua. The basic premise is quite straightforward and is well summarized in the foundational declaration of the IPWP. It states that we, the undersigned, recognize the right of West Papuans to decide democratically their own future in accordance with international standards of human rights, the principles of international law, and the Charter of the United Nations. So I would ask you to lend your support to a visit by the United Nations Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights by spreading the word and exercising whatever influence you have within your partisan parliament. It's time. The visit cannot be delayed any further, and therefore I would respectfully ask you to read and consider supporting the Brussels declarations that we used just over a month ago. I think that copies have been delivered to you. And it's of the utmost importance that EU member states include the issue of human rights in any dealings with Indonesia, and the free trade agreement negotiations are key on this. Obviously, support for an OHCHR visit from the Netherlands is of particular symbolic and practical importance. Do join us and add your names, please, to the more than 60 parliamentarians from Europe and around the world who have supported the Brussels Declaration, and do share these parliamentary colleagues at home and in other countries so that the call cannot be ignored any longer. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Barrena, for your statement. And now at last I want to give the floor to Mr. Up. Is it right? Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, in addition to the words of our Prime Minister in West Papua, I would like to inform you that there's also a written statement. I will give it up to you.
My colleague will get
yeah, please, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. And maybe you can also present it also. Thank you. Yeah, I think our President and our Prime Minister already said everything what needed to be said. But I think it's also good to discuss about the recent situation regarding the ICJ case on Israel. We are witnessing Indonesia's hypocrisy. We are witnessing Indonesia's double standards in front of our eyes. Because when it comes to the right to self-determination, Indonesia has double standards. As you probably know, Indonesia fully supports and is championing the Palestinian right to self-determination, but at the same time denies West Papua's right to self-determination. Like our Prime Minister Barumi said, there's no future for our people within the Indonesian state. Like many of our leaders here in Europe, when Joko Widodo became president of Indonesia, he was praised by many. But the same President Joko Widodo has failed to end the human rights violations in West Papua, but also in South Moluccas and Aceh. Despite promises, the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights has not been granted access to visit West Papua, as our President and our Prime Minister already stressed out, and my colleagues. And our main concern at this present day is the course that the Indonesian people are heading, because they chose Prabowo Subianto as their new president. Prabowo Subianto is a very notorious former army general. We have learned that President-elect Prabowo and his friends and colleagues, former Army General Luhut and former Army General Wiranto, has a great interest in the new Wabu Block gold mine. It has been the reason for the conflicts in the area since 2018. As we speak, there are more than 75,000 internally displaced indigenous Papuans, mostly women and children. We are very concerned about the healthy conditions, about the safety, and it has been too long since Jokowi promised to grant access to the UN High Commissioner to visit West Papua. Last time when we were here with a delegation in 2022, we already asked the same thing. We were very grateful about the adopted mission that was supported by almost every party in your house. But we need your committee, we need your individual members to urge the new incoming Minister of Foreign Affairs to give some update about what is the Dutch government really been doing this few months or few years. Are there any progress booked in Geneva or in New York? Because we don't see any progress since the last UPR on Indonesia last November 2022. And maybe you might even put some more pressure on your incoming Minister of Foreign Affairs to push his counterparts to grant access to to the UN High Commissioner. I think that's a reasonable request from our people back in West Papua, and we are appealing on your humanity, because our people has the right to live freely as people in Ukraine and as people in the Gaza Strip, as Palestinians, as everyone. And thank you, honorable members of the committee. Thanks.
Thank you, as delegation, for your statements. Quite clear. I want to start with questions from my colleague for you to read the declaration and also maybe to make a photo at the end or some. Thank you. Yeah, let's say that.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your statements. Thank you all those who are here visiting. Thank you for taking the time. This is a topic that the last few years I've also been interested in, which also resulted in a motion which the Parliament said that the High Commissioner should be able to visit the area. And it's sad that after all these years, I think it's 2, maybe 3 years, since we as a Parliament, we agreed on that has not yet been effectively done. One of the questions I have is that the the High Commissioner, that's something where we can apply pressure as the Dutch. I think it's also effective if other countries could keep continuing. I see that Mr. Barena is also putting on pressure. But I was wondering, maybe you can reflect on that. If you can sketch what the international field is on which countries are actively busy with this situation and engaging in dialogue with Indonesia, talks with the High Commissioner. That's my first question, because I think that if we start this discussion again in the Parliament, I think again there will be a majority. At the same time, we're in an international geopolitical situation where I do think that the help of other countries working together to making sure that justice is done, or at least there's entry to the area so we can review what's taking place. I think that's very necessary. So that's my first, that's my statement, but also my first question. I think, Mr. Barena, maybe others can reflect on that. I think maybe you have a better view on what's taking place internationally.
Mr. Barena.
Yes, thanks for the question. I'm afraid that I have no list on the 80 countries I mentioned in the world that at this moment support a visit by the High Commissioner for Human Rights to West Papua. I can say that beyond the Pacific Islands Forum, the Organization of African, Caribbean and Pacific States, there are states, European states like the Spanish one, Spain, the United Kingdom, and it's important to highlight as well that the European Commission on Mr. Borrell words has also called explicitly for a visit. Sorry, but that list of 80 countries in the world is not available at this moment on my hands. I don't know if you have that list, or Didek?
Yes, we have a list, and which the office of our president can send it. There's a list actually, and yeah, we can send it through email if it's possible.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much for, if you could send that, please, because I think that could help. I think maybe, could you, there's, the Netherlands has a specific historical relationship when it comes to West Papua. I know that over the years there have been some debates taking place on what does that responsibility mean. Is it done? Is it finished? Or is there still a responsibility? I know that the last couple of years we've also taken special interest concerning the decolonization of Indonesia. So I was wondering if you could reflect on the question if the specific Dutch responsibility concerning the decolonization if that's finished and it's a general geopolitical responsibility that every other country has, or do you feel that the Dutch government still has a specific role? If so, could you explicitly explain why the Dutch should have a specific role concerning the situation in West Papua? I'm not sure who I can ask this question to, so maybe whoever feels called, maybe all of you can, from a certain perspective, can answer. I think this is very important also to realize that to answer the question, if it's not just a general human rights discussion, but also the Dutch government has a specific role which is unique to the rest of the world concerning this matter.
Thank you. Maybe this is very important for me to respond. Last 50 years, last 60 years, that's the former colonial have been ignored. We are crying for justice. We are crying. People of West Papua, they're not seeing Indonesia as a colony. They're seeing the Dutch as a colony. So they still remember. And until today, Indonesia is seen as they're invaded, and they are coming not for helping, but they are coming for the killing West Papuans. So why the Dutch is important for us is that is a moral obligation to help West Papua do more to put pressure on UNI Commission visit. Secondly, Dutch unfinished business, the case of West Papua. That is for sure. When we go around the world, when we lobby, they always refer to the Dutch, because the Dutch are one of the moral obligations, and we feel that Dutch to do more about the safeguard of the people of West Papua, because one thing that all 50 years Dutch parliamentarians or parliament, we never get opportunity to share our side of story. Maybe the Dutch government allow Indonesia come to discuss about human rights situation in West Papua, but now under Christian Uni, you are making history and to put the motions and then 100% motion to support UNI Commission visit to West Papua. That is the first time. Secondly, allow West Papuan to come to present the hearing. This is first time in the publicly, we never heard. Now you can see it, the whole world are watching today and last 2022. That I think this is why it's important to coming to present our situations to you and all the Dutch parliamentarians, because we are a human being. They need to listen, the parliamentarians need to listen to our story, because last 50 years we be forgotten. And we feel that you can see that old men there. This is one example. He's elder. Some of them, his colleagues are passed away. They're still waiting last 60, 50 years here in Netherlands. Almost 3,000 West Papua live here. They don't have any opportunity. When the Christian Uni put the motion forward, and then we have opportunity to speaking, and I'm proud and to be here and represent the people of West Papua. Thank you for your committee to invite us. We need more for opportunity like this to express ourselves, what happening, what going on. That is important. And again, I hope that your committee to more coming out to put pressure on Indonesian government to allow. We know that Indonesian government is a member of the United Nations. They should allow UNI Commissioner. As you know, the United Liberation Movement are now observer in MSC, Melanesian Spearhead Group. MSC is made up of the Papua New Guinea, Solomon Island, Vanuatu, New Caledonia, Fiji. So we are observer. So we are engaged with Indonesian government last 7 years. Indonesia not willing to engage. They always confrontation. We raise the human rights situation. They are talking about development. They're talking about how good they are. But now we thank you to the MAC or Melanesian leader, fully Pacific Island Forum and Melanesian leader, fully mandated two countries, which is Fiji and Papua New Guinea, to engage with the president of Indonesia governments. That's we're thankful, and that now the state level already engaged, but we need more pressure coming from interparliamentarians around the world, particularly Netherlands, moral obligation to push this issue for further. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wenda. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Chair, maybe in addition to what President Wenda said, we all know that, and I think, and I'm sure that you all can understand that how the Papuan sees Netherlands is like our parents. There's still a moral obligation for all of you to help save our people. If it's not a political support, you can help by asking questions in Brussels, because Indonesia has been negotiating to have this SEPA agreement with Europe, and they're always talking about a better trade agreement. But this should be a tool for your committee or for your house to raise this issue of human rights violation in West Papua, because trade shouldn't be more important than human rights. And I think this can be a tool to put pressure on Indonesia to finally end access for the Human Rights High Commissioner to visit West Papua and actually conduct a fact-finding mission. And maybe that can save our people from being extinct in our own country. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Seda, do you have any other question?
Yes, I'm not sure if any of you has a legal background, but I'm reading this report by Ms. Gauto Korwa, saying that Indonesia does not acknowledge the International Court, the ICJ, but they did a statement concerning the Israel case. When it comes to the ICJ, also maybe looking into the situation of West Papua, do you think that them speaking in the situation of the ICJ case, which they formally do not recognize, does that create a new situation where there is some type of recognition? Because I'm looking for the international legal entities or ways which could investigate this situation. So I'm reading this, so I was wondering if you could elaborate on the situation with the ICJ now, and does this mean, or do you have the opinion that the ICJ could and other countries thereby could also help to make a case to look into the situation that's currently taking place in West Papua?
Actually, last time when we were here, we invited the international lawyers for West Papua to brief your committee. And our lawyers, I'm not a lawyer, so I cannot talk too much, but our lawyers are preparing for years to have a legal argument, because we know that at some point we will challenge the Indonesian government about their claim of West Papua. So actually, for us, it's good that Indonesia is championing the Palestinian cause, by joining forces with South Africa. So it's good that they're raising the issue of right to self-determination. So yeah, I think it's good. Maybe at some point your committee can invite our lawyers to come and talk, and maybe they can explain you about our legal argument to face the Indonesian government. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do you have an extra question, colleague Seder?
No, not yet. I got some of these documents which I'm still looking into, but for now, no further questions.
Okay. Then I will suggest that you can make, one of you can make one last statement, and then we close this meeting, so you can hand over maybe some other statements, and we can make a photo. Okay? Mr. President?
Again, thank you very much for your committee and chair your committee to inviting us. I think today is a second meeting, and for us is this opportunity. For us it means a lot, and to discuss. And for sure, we know that Indonesia claimed over our territory. As you know, historically, West Papua never been part of Indonesia. Indonesia got independent in 1945. West Papua is a Dutch New Guinea. We have our parents speaking the Dutch. We have our passport, Dutch passport. It's 20 years we part of the Dutch New Guinea. So that's why when talking about the question, is sometimes my blood is up, because that's moral obligation to help us. We are not safe with Indonesia. You left us with Indonesia, but Indonesia not looking after our people. So that's why, again, our parents already been killed. I growing up in the 7 years in the bush. Indonesia bombed our village. So when come to this parliament, I have to express myself. 50 years, that's ignored. But today, you know, your generation now coming up and then invite us to address this. This is very important. You're making history. You've been making history. In this parliament, you are part of the champion. When West Papua one day will free, like South Africa. People thought South Africa never free, but South Africa now free. East Timor are now free. That's why this is second time I'm here representing people of West Papua. We have been ignored for so long. I think today, from now on, we need more the Dutch parliamentarians, Dutch people, Dutch government to speak out more, before too late. We have been, because we've been killed, we have been different, we have been Christian, we have been black. That's why Indonesia trying to wipe out entire population. We never been part of the Indonesian. As I mentioned, Indonesia got independent in 1945 from you people, but we part of the Dutch New Guinea, 25 years. Sometimes hard cry to come to express ourselves. This we don't any hope. Only you can speak, because historical connections. Our people telling us that Dutch never shoot any West Papuans. When Indonesia come, massacre started. So I want to leave this in your mind and your prayer. So please help us by doing that. God will bless you. Thank you. Wah, 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 wah.
No, sorry, because I have to close, because your chair has to be in another meeting. So my apologies. Thanks again. I want to thank you again for your visit and for your statements. Before we're going to make the photo, I first have to close this meeting, and I have to ask the public to leave the room also, so we can only make the photo with the delegation. But again, thank you, and I hereby close this meeting. Thank you.